And the boys are finally back. The Deadlock Podcast, after an extended hiatus, has finally returned. Life gets in the way. It is all good. We all got to work those things out, get back into the saddle, and continue to produce content for you guys because we truly appreciate everybody coming out and supporting as always. Shout out to everybody that came out for the UFC 280 live recap. That was pretty much as soon as the main event wrapped up, me and Clint decided to go live and talk to you guys. And we got a lot of good feedback about that. We hope that we can build some momentum with it and keep the train rolling. As you guys obviously know, I'm your co-host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night and MMA LOTN on all social media platforms. We got my guy Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast. You guys can follow him over there at Die Hard MMA Pod. And Clint, we are kind of, I hinted at it. I dropped it on Twitter a little bit already. We kind of already tried to do it, but I feel like this is something that may even be easier. Drop in the bells and whistles. Drop in the, last time we went offline, I even told you, I'm like, I felt like I just turned on the off switch or turned off the switch. And I don't want to do that. Like, I want to have a legitimate conversation with you. I don't want an agenda. I don't want, something, okay, we got to hit these points. We got to do this segment, got to do that. Let's just talk about the thing that got us to where we are. And that's the betting and that's the bets and, eyeing certain lines, seeing where the live movement is and all that type of stuff. So I think the people will likely enjoy this iteration of the show because this is what they know us for. They don't care about what we think about Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva. They want to know how we would have bet it if that was anything, right? That was about it. So before we get into the actual show, how are you doing, my friend? It's good to see you as always.
I'm doing, man. I like that we did not pre-plan this. We got a little fire versus ice thing going on with the red versus blue here. I'm rocking the Coyotes
purple.
gear.
It's technically purple.
My Yotes had a big upset win last night that was a good time. And yeah, so for everybody tuning in that has continued to support us as we struggle to get the Deadlock podcast off the ground, we kind of just felt like we weren't being true to ourselves. We kind of felt like we were trying to outline things and we did the fun little games. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There was some stuff that we did that we thought was fun and it was goofy and there weren't enough people that were really on board with it. And we were just kind of like, what the hell are we doing? We're gamblers, we're bettors. Why are we forcing this to be something that's, I don't know. So guys, right now, the plan is we're just going to have some fun. We're not going to have we're not going to schedule this thing out. We're not going to try and, make sure we hit these certain time frames or checkpoints or anything like that. We're just going to talk fights and we're going to talk bets. We might look ahead a week because we're still doing the bi-weekly thing right now. We might talk about fights that we do and or don't have bets for this week. And we can talk about if there's a bet that we haven't made, what we're holding back from. It's not going to be your usual breakdown because we still do that already 2 or 3 times a week already. We don't need a third one. So it's going to be mostly just to kind of chill, shoot the shit, and bring back the gambling talk type of setup. So, Manpreet, I'm excited. I think this is going to be fun. And I think you and I will be a little less stiff. And I think hopefully the chat will enjoy it a little bit better. We'll get into it.
Because, dude, we after we went offline the last time we did this, we talked for another 45 minutes about the bets we wanted to make and all the type of other things, right? Obviously, we'll keep it more on topic in terms of the gambling stuff, but it felt so easy. It felt like we didn't need to put on a show or anything like that. And I feel like once we start talking about bets, and especially where we have spots or we're head to head on certain spots, we're gonna have some disagreements. We'll have some spots where we'll be like, Clint, you're fucking off on this one, or you're gonna be like, Manpreet, take off my conspiracy tinfoil hat and fucking give it back to me, send it back to Arizona. I want those types of discussions, and I think that's what a lot of people will be looking forward to hear. So I think the best jumping off point for every show would be just to list our bet one by one, talk about it, and just see what you feel about it, what I feel about it. get as much as we can out of it, move on to the next bet, and go on from there. I would love to see if there are any head-to-head spots that we have. And I don't like, obviously, sometimes I see your picks on Twitter, but I want to try not to see them. So that I'm kind of more so surprised whenever we talk about it on this Deadlock podcast, and you guys can get my genuine reaction to those bets. So why don't you kick it off? Why don't you let us know first play that you made for this card? Let's dissect it. Let's talk about it. I'll drop mine on the back. And if I have one that's head to head with yours, we can obviously talk about that straight out. But let's go over our bets. So I'll let you kick it off. What's the first one that you made?
Yeah, man. First bet that I pulled the trigger on for this week was Ramona Pascal. I'm going back to the well. I'm going after my girl again. Last week, Locke, was one of those spots for me where if I had just dug my damn heels in, and went, you know what? Fuck the noise, fuck the record, fuck the analysis. I am trusting my reads on these fighters. I could have taken home the whole bag. Tresean Gore is a guy who I've been trying to bet on the last couple fights, and he gets starched in round 1 the last time out. So what do? Can't do it again this time, man. Can't do it again. Of course he gets the win, right? Of course he gets the win.
I stuck to my guns there, Clint.
Good call, man.
I bet him against Brundage. I bet him against Fremd here ever so slightly, but I kind of hedged it with the under 2.5 in a sense, right? Just in case his durability wasn't really all there after getting, flatlined 3 months prior to that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be honest with you, Clint. I don't know if I'll back Tresean Gore again after that performance, because it kind of looked like it was becoming a Josh Fremd fight. Like, I'm like, I might have to. This might be a Fremd via decision type of spot. Like,
dude,
Tresean Gore's durability is fine.
Let me tell you how powerful my curse is right now. I live bet Fremd, and I got such a sick number, dude.
56 seconds later.
I got plus 150. And as soon as I put the tweet out, people are like, bro, where the fuck are you getting this number? Because he was like minus 250 everywhere, just like moments later. And then he immediately sticks his neck in a guillotine. I was like,
no.
Anyway, so that happened. And then same thing with me wanting to bet Roman leads, just because I never have been a believer in this Phil Hawes 2.0 thing. I've always tried to fade Phil Hawes. I see the weaknesses in the game. He's chinny. And that was a bit of a freak incident, right? Like his knee pops out. I mean, Roman caused it, obviously, but you can't count on something like that happening. I did think Roman might be able to clip him at some point and put him out. Did I go to the well with it? No, I did not. But I was right on both these guys. It hasn't come to fruition recently, but I could have attacked those spots this week, and I just didn't have the balls to kind of sack up and do it. So that's what I'm doing here with Ramona. Now, it's women's MMA, obviously, so far sketchier. Maybe I'm stepping into my own self-created trap. But basically, I don't think much of Vidal, man. I don't think she's very good. I think she makes bad decisions. We've seen her quit. She'll look for the DQ if she can take it. She's a worse actor than Aljamain Sterling is. And frankly, if you're gonna fight Ramona and give Ramona an opportunity to win, you got to grapple. If she has the chance to use that physicality and launch those big, powerful knees to the body that she has, like someone I've learned, like Jocelyn Edwards, is going to stay on the outside and never give her that opportunity. What Vidal does, though, is closes the distance, clinches up with you, tries to pin you up against the fence, and then gasses out. So, like, she's going to literally bring the exact fight that Ramona needs to Ramona. So I'm like, all right, chips on the table. Zip, nutsack. All right, we're going Ramona. And I'm just going to be terrified for this first fight of the night. So I've got Ramona. I got plus 125, I think. So the line is moving my direction, it looks like. Glad to hear that there's been some travel issues and the fight's still on, it sounds like. So, that's good. We'll see how it goes, man. I'm not overly confident, but I think Ramona beats this girl.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see that Ramona actually opened up around plus 200.
Oh my God,
plus 200.
Wish I got that. Shout out Pepe, man. I saw our guy on Twitter, Pepe Silva. He got plus 200. I'm like, I would be all over that number if I could have got it.
Of course, yeah. And now it's all the way down to plus 125, like you were talking about. I got in on Pascual myself. I got in at plus 135. I thought that's a good spot on her. You laid it all out, man. Vidal is not good. And I think that we're just getting some recency bias here on the Ramona Pascual side, that she's on a 2-fight losing streak. The wide consensus here on her, or at least the narrative on her, is that she's not that good, but she's probably good enough to beat a girl like Damaris Vidal. Like even her wins are sketchy. Like she beat Eileen Perez because of the DQ. You're talking about the Grammy, or sorry, the Academy Award worthy performance that she put on that night. But even the fight after that against Kaylee Braga, I believe her name is, it's the last win that she has on her record. She's getting pieced up by this boxer, and then halfway through the second round, she finally decides to take this fight to the ground, and she gets that top mount and gets the heel hook. She couldn't even finish from on top. She gets the heel hook, and yes, of course, look at fucking Ramona Pascual right there.
Girl's in shape.
Looking phenomenal, looking in great shape. Like this is a do or die spot for her. Like if she goes out there and loses this fight,
too, man.
She's out of here. So go out there and
like
fight.
betting on the back against the wall spots. It seems like these fighters do more often than not dig deep and keep their job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like it depends on the fighter and like their IQ in a sense. And I feel like Ramona, she used to do like TED Talks and shit for like motivation speaking or motivational speaking or something like that. So you got to believe that she's ready to go and fired up to do the damn thing. I like her in this spot. Better, more output on the feet, more volume, and then even in the grappling, I think she can remain competitive enough to stay safe and win this one. So yeah, I love the underdog shot to start off the card.
I also just can't see where this girl follows the game plan that it takes to beat Ramona. You know what I mean? Like what we've seen is successful is lots of footwork, lots of jabs, run around the outside. Like that's not how Vidal fights. Like that's just not how Vidal fights. So worst case scenario, we get like a split decision, and I want to be on the dog for that anyway. Best case scenario, Ramona's bigger, stronger, and mauls her in the clinch. So yeah, man. Well,
her striking style is shit though. It's literally just an overhand right. Like that's all.
That's all she's got.
Throws a couple kicks. That's about it. Ramona should be able to stay more active and win this one. What else you got? What else are you on here?
So what else I'm on is live betting the Flyers and Maple Leafs over 5.5. 2 goals ripped off in the first period after locking that bad boy in. So feels good to get over that hump there. Good number we're looking at. All right.
Shout out to our guy Tro Noke here saying great start to NHL. May I add? Let's go.
You know what? Everybody knows how bad my MMA year has been, Locke. My NHL season start has actually been pretty phenomenal. So
let's go.
I'm paying the bills with NHL these days. I'm about to start a new podcast and talk hockey instead. Because
diehard NHL podcast.
Fights. That's right. The diehard NHL podcast instead. I did a parlay for my next one, man. I did Jake Hadley. Pardon me. Did Jake Hadley, and I'm locking him up with Mario Bautista. Minus 116, I think, is what that came to. And this is just that spot where Contender Series fade came through and worked, fading Jake Hadley. He dropped the ball on the debut. And this is a guy who I think is going to take that personal. You know what I mean? He's got everyone hyped up. He's got a country behind him. He's supposed to be the next big thing. And he just didn't have the grappling, scrambling transition game that he needed to beat somebody coming out of Charles Oliveira's camp, which you can't really fault him for. Nascimento's pretty beastly. I'm not impressed with Carlos Candelario. I think he's basic, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like his fundamentals are solid. His 1-2 is great, but he's not that fast. He doesn't hit that hard, and he's got a single leg. That's it. Like that. Yeah. That's what Carlos Candelario brings to the table. I think Jake Hadley can strike him on the feet, even if it's even. Hadley's going to hit harder. He's got more power, so I think that's going to tilt things in his favor. And if they end up in scrambles, Candelario is not Nascimento. I think Jake Hadley can out-scramble this man on the ground. And honestly, Jake Hadley's got that tight squeeze, man. He grabs necks. I wouldn't be shocked if Candelario goes for a single leg and gives up a guillotine or something like that in this spot. So I'm expecting a 15-minute decision, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see like the return of Prime Hadley. I just think we're getting a low number because he dropped that first ball. I expect him to get back on track here. And then Mario Bautista.
Let's talk about the Hadley fight real quick. Sure. I have thoughts on the Bautista fight that I want to show as well. We'll talk about the Hadley one.
And throw comments in the chat, guys. Anybody watching the show, hit the like button. And if you've got thoughts and comments, we will talk about your thoughts and comments. Jump on in, join the conversation. Sorry,
absolutely.
Go ahead.
And it would be helpful if it was about the fight that we're talking about. We don't want to jump all over the place. Let's try to keep it on topic as much as possible. But in regards to this matchup with Jake Hadley, I do agree with you. I think he wins this fight. My concern comes with the defensive brilliance of Carlos Candelario, right? Like we saw him pretty much defend everything that Tatsuro Taira, a similar fighter to Jake Hadley in a certain way, right? Like they're both grapple heavy minded fighters that like to get finishes on the ground. I like what we saw from Jake there, what we saw from Carlos there. The unfortunate part is he was so busy defending, he just couldn't get anything off offensively. And I think that's going to be his issue here with Jake, where Jake is going to be controlling the majority of these positions. I have no doubt that this fight is going to hit the mat. And I think that Jake will be the one that's asserting his dominance, but I just don't know if he'll get the finish. My concern comes, like, I want to see the bounce back from Jake here, right? We believe that he's going to be hella motivated, right? We believe that he's going to take that L and be like, fuck, I got to come back and show these guys why the fuck the UFC signed me, even though I missed weight on the Contender Series. I need to remind these guys. And I want to see that out of him first before I back him again at chalk myself. Yeah, I like him as the pick. I don't have the confidence myself to parlay him, but I did parlay somebody else with Mario Bautista. But please share your Mario Bautista thoughts first, and then I'll let you know who I parlayed him with.
Okay, so yeah, we're on the same page here. We're both parlaying the man up. My parlay second leg is Bautista over Benito Lopez, and man, 10-1, 10-2. Like, this is going to be a hell of a fight. I can't wait to see this one. I'm so questioning where Benito Lopez is at mentally, though, man. He's had so many injuries. He's had long layoffs, multiple broken legs. He's tall, he's lanky. Now he's getting a career going outside the cage, which, don't get me wrong, like, I know they got to put food on the table and stuff like that, so I'm not like holding it against him that he went out and got some other source of income after this kind of a layoff. But I'm extremely concerned about the fact that it looks like he's training at a hole in the wall instead of a big gym anymore. And now he looks like he's not focused entirely on, his MMA career. And after a long layoff, multiple injuries, like I said on my podcast, man, I would not be shocked if he lays the gloves down if he loses on Saturday. Like, it could be one of those things where this man just is not, his heart is not in MMA anymore. We'll find out on Saturday. So it's a bit of a narrative that I'm taking here on this one. But if you want to talk about the technical stuff, first off, Bautista's a beast. We know his head is in it right now. He likes to come forward. He likes to swing heavies. That grappling game is on point. He can match flying knees with Benito Lopez. And what we've seen from Benito is he doesn't really like that heavy boxing pressure. So if you come forward and you swing, bombs with the hands on him, it really messes up his timing, his distance, stuff like that. I think Mario Bautista can back him up, pressure him, make him uncomfortable. And if they grapple, I think Bautista probably has the advantage when it comes to the grappling, but there's so many questions about Benito Lopez being gone for the amount of time he is. I sometimes like to back fighters that are young and they get these big breaks like he's taken, except the injuries. Like, that's the big thing for me here, is that it's like, he got a job outside MMA and he's hurt all the damn time. Like, is he really improving? Like, how much is he in the gym? We don't really know. So, like, I'm going to take my opportunity here to fade the guy, because the one time that we've seen him lose, he has been finished. So, yeah, I'm gonna back the guy that's more proven right now. I'm gonna back the guy that's streaking right now, the guy that's been active. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I like the approach that you're taking there as well. The question mark for me is like, what kind of Benito are we actually going to get? And I saw what you're talking about in regards to his second income stream. Now he's a real estate agent, right? He just got his real estate license a couple of weeks ago, and it seems like he's shifting and ready to start the other end of his career, or at least the back end of his career now. And you don't want to be doing that against a killer like Mario Bautista, man. Bautista is in it to freaking win it. Like, the guy, he looks in phenomenal shape. Obviously, the one slip up that he had against Trevin Jones outside of the Corey Sandhagen short notice spot that he lost, that one was one where he almost finished Trevin Jones himself. Like, that's something, he was close to getting done there. Benito, with that outside lanky movement, with his kicking style and his unorthodox blitz every now and then to close that distance with his 1-2s, that's where my slight concern lays. Like, beginning of the week, I thought Mario Bautista was going to be my lock of the night play. Like, I was that confident in him pre-tape. And then after running the tape, I was still confident in him. But, like, Benito has such a weird style that I can't really go 5 units deep against a guy like this who, maybe he takes this time off and there's something different with it. What if he tried to evolve his game into something completely different? And then we're in there against a guy that we weren't expecting. And then I'm going to be biting my tongue like, fuck, like I shouldn't have gone 5 units deep on this spot. I went 2 units. I like him for all the reasons that you laid out, all the reasons that I laid out. I went 2 units on this parlay. I got him around minus 225, I believe. Before the number jumped, I believe he's around that minus 270, minus 280 range now. I ended up parlaying him with Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson is a spot that I feel like is a decent parlay piece. I think he was around minus 230 as well. But just a younger, more athletic, closer to his peak version of Mark Madsen, right? Like great grappler, probably better pure jiu-jitsu, probably a better striker. Like Mark Madsen has been getting away with the meat and potatoes of MMA against guys like Vince Pichel and Clay Guida, right? Like he's developing his striking game. He's not so desperate like he was earlier in his MMA career to get fights to the ground. And that's allowed him to be successful later on in his career. But I don't think that style, or like, I don't think he's going to be able to land that takedown with 3 minutes left in the third round to secure the fight like he did against Vince Pichel. Like, I don't think he has that out here against a guy who will likely be in it the entire time in Grant Dawson. Now, Grant, I used to think that this was a guy that used to have horrible cardio, and you could understand why, right? Like the Rick Glenn split decision, not split decision, sorry, draw there. And other fights where we clearly see him slowing down. But like the Jared Gooden fight or the Jared Gordon fight was a big eye opener for me. Like Jared Gordon is a guy that I think has very good cardio, very good pace, very good pressure. And Grant Dawson gave it to him in that third round. Didn't get the first takedown, didn't get the second takedown. Eventually got that third and fourth one, and then he was able to find the back and get that submission finish. So I think that this is a great matchup for him to go out there and just showcase what Mark Madsen would look like had he gotten into the game 10 years prior. That is Grant Dawson. He's on his way to his peak. 38-year-old Marco Madsen is on the way out, in my opinion. Great win in his last run. You know, he's been on a good run over the last couple of fights, but I think that this is going to be his toughest test, and this will likely be the end of the road for him. Curious to hear your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, first off, real quick, shout out Rips and Picks, saying as a mortgage professional myself, no one gets into this biz to kill time. He's taking time away from training to succeed in real estate. I like that. I like that, man. Shout out to everybody hanging out here listening to the show. We appreciate you guys tuning in. So I have a similar thought process for you as you against Marco Madsen here. But once again, Locke, this is that spot for me where I have been unsuccessful fading this man. Like Mark Madsen just keeps on getting the damn thing done for me, or against me. Sorry. Like I actually bet Vince Pichel thinking, you know what? This is a big, strong, powerful man who we know has a great gas tank. And we've seen signs of Mark Madsen kind of slowing down a little bit in fights because he does everything with power. And I think I took the shot with Austin Hubbard. I don't believe I bet Clay Guida against him, but so I bet against him twice now. And both times he's just managed to get it done. What I've noticed about Mark Madsen is he just digs deep, man. Like that's all it comes down to. He's one of these Olympic level wrestlers. He knows how to, win a fight. He knows how to pace himself. And even if he does blow his wad a little bit, he'll take 2 minutes off and just stay safe and catch his breath and then come back and do what he needs to do to get the win. I love Grant Dawson as much as everybody else does. I do not trust this number. I don't like how wide this is. Minus 215. It looks like for Grant Dawson, plus 185 for Mark Madsen. I would more lean on like the over at minus 200. I don't think Grant Dawson finishes Mark Madsen. He's mostly been a decision machine himself. I mean, he does have a lot of like ground and pound and submission type of wins in his past, but at the UFC level, except that Gordon fight, who, let's face it, in my opinion, Gordon's a fade guy for me. I know a lot of people like him. I know a lot of people try to back him and stuff like that, but he's too small for 155. He's a guy that I think belongs kind of in the middle. If they had like a 150, he'd be at home in that kind of a spot, but he can't make weight class down, so he has to fight up at 155. I think that's the kind of guy, Grant Dawson should beat and should finish and should outpace. Man, I don't know if he can go physical for physical with Mark Madsen. I think Grant Dawson probably does have a slight striking edge, but I wouldn't be surprised if Mark Madsen is able to take this man down and be in top position like he usually is, because he's a fucking monster of a wrestler and he's training it fight ready. So like he's working with the absolute best minds and best grapplers in the game right now. So I'm high on Grant Dawson like everybody else is. I'm not touching this one, man. I wouldn't. If I get like a weird, crazy number, which I don't expect to get, I would look at Mark Madsen by decision. I think the over 2.5 at minus 200 is probably the way I would look over picking a side. I'd rather play over 2.5 than lay the money line with Grant Dawson personally.
Man, I'd honestly be like, I could see this being a competitive matchup for about a round and a half. That's about it. And then I think Grant Dawson will likely start to take over. The reason we see Mark Madsen get his hand raised against Vince Pichel, he lands a takedown late in that fight, but he's going to be going up against some legit resistance. Like, I'm surprised that Vince Pichel just laid on his back for the last 3 minutes of that fight. I expect some, reversal attempts, some get up attempts from Grant Dawson, not to just stay on his back for those last 3 minutes. Against Clay Guida, he just soundly outstrikes him throughout that matchup. Like, he's just an energizer, Clay Guida is just an energizer bunny, just getting popped every now and then, and he's just not doing anything in return. I'd be surprised if Grant Dawson gets sucked into any of those. And man, I don't know why, off the top of my head, I was thinking that Austin Hubbard actually survived the early onslaught and finished him late. I don't know why that was in my head. I just recall, I think it was a third round beatdown though, right? Like, he actually got a good round off on Madsen and almost finished him in that third round. But yeah, I don't know what the hell was going on in my head to even bring that up. In regards to your next bet, how many is that? All you have? You only have the 2 bets so far, or you got more action?
I do have one more that I've locked in here. Let me get this up real quick so I can remind myself of the exact number that I got on this thing. The other spot that I really like on this card, and frankly, folks, like, this is probably going to be a short show lock. This is a bad card. Like, when it comes to betting stuff, this is a really sloppy card. I think, kind of like last week, there's probably some like crazy prop opportunities once those prop numbers drop. But from a side and total perspective, like, these are not the types of fighters you want to trust and really like get your money down on type of situation. They're not trustworthy enough for that. So I'm treading lightly. The next bet that I did make though is Shayilan Norton-Becky, Derek Minner under 2.5 minus 120. I went 3.6 units on that one, man. I like this spot. I like this spot.
Interesting. Please.
We are getting numbers on this that we shouldn't get because people think these guys are decision machines. And somebody actually like tweeted that at me when I tweeted it, that they were like, don't these guys go to decision all the time? Like, why are you betting the under? It's like, no, they don't. In fact, Derek Minner specifically, like, people think he's a decision machine because Ryan Hall has no offense and is incapable of finishing him. And he is incapable of finishing by submission Charles Rosa. Those are the only 2 reasons those fights went to decision. Every other fight that this man has been in is a early round 2 finish or a round 1 finish. He either taps people out extremely quickly in the first, or he runs out of gas, dies trying, and his opponents are able to just take apart this helpless man that doesn't have anything left to offer. Shayilan Norton-Becky, the positions he was giving up to TJ Brown, let me promise you, man, if he gives up those spots to Derek Minner, he's tapping. Like, you cannot have Derek Minner in control positions on your back, reversing you, sweeping you, thinking that opportunity. So I think there's finish upside on Derek Minner, obviously early. And then Shayilan, on the other hand, this guy's got solid submission game himself. He also knows how to ground and pound people. Like, he's such a big, powerful wrestler. When he gets on top of people, he just goes ham, raining down punishment from top position. So once you get Derek Minner tired, Shayilan's not going to have a problem either submitting or breaking him with ground and pound. I'm on violence for this one, Locke. That's it. I don't see how, frankly, I don't see how either of these guys wins by decision, because the only way I can see this fight going to decision is if Shayilan completely gasses himself doing stupid shit and then only lays on top of Derek. Whereas, like, both guys are exhausted to the point they can't do anything, and Shayilan is just like, fuck, give me a minute, and just like lays on him with that massive back of his and stifles him. That's the only way this thing makes it to the judges' scorecards, because Derek Minner is a finisher. Like, this guy throws heavies. He does everything it takes to get it to the ground. Once it's there, he transitions, he rolls, he scrambles, he forces you to move, catches you in a mistake. Like, that's what this guy does. And I don't think Shayilan is some uber incredible wrestler. And I think that Derek Minner is a better grappler than TJ Brown is. So if he can lose position to someone like TJ Brown, he can lose position to someone like Derek Minner. I'm seeing finishes all over the place on this one. It's either going to be a round 1 Derek Minner sub, or it's going to round 2 Shayilan TKO, in my opinion.
Man, I don't share the same sentiments in terms of like being so down with the violence here. Like I get the Derek Minner approach, right? Like I think he's only been to 3 decisions in his entire career, if I'm not mistaken. The guy either goes out there and finishes or he gets finished himself outside of the last couple fights that you talked about. And then on the Shah Ilan side, yeah, you see a lot of finishes sprinkled throughout his regional scene run, but like how good are those guys? We don't know any of those guys other than a couple names that stick out. But like for the majority of those names, it's just like, are they just guys they just picked out of the crowd? Are they guys with legitimate experience? Like I see very minimal experience on a lot of those records. And now that he's fighting guys that are better or possibly better than his regional scene, now he's forced to go to full 15 minutes. And against a guy like Derek Minner, sure, the Minner early finishes live, but are we guaranteeing that Shailan is going to turn up the gas or turn up the volume in rounds 2 and 3 to actually get him out of there? That's where my concern lays. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm not betting him minus 200. I'm thinking about him via decision, but still, like he seems like one of those guys that might go in on a desperation takedown and get his neck caught up. Like that's
Exactly.
absolutely possible. Like I could see
Exactly.
that angle, but I'd rather take a Minner submission at that point in time. But you're covering that base as well, just in case.
Exactly.
So I could see that angle, but I don't know, man. I'm gonna go Shailan decision. I'll be praying for you, bet, but I have no action myself on that matchup. That is the last bet that you currently have. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the last bet that I've got as of right now. So
All right.
unless if you've got other bets, let's run through those and talk
Yeah.
about them, and we can talk about the action that we're like on the fence about or whatever. Or if
Yeah.
people in the chat have questions, we can hit those. African asking if we've got any Cage Warriors exposure. I don't personally. I've got
Yeah.
nothing on Cage Warriors, so
Nothing
sorry,
myself.
man.
Shout out to my guy, the African. Steady busy in my Discord as well, keeping that shit live. Appreciate my guy there. There are some names that I believe we might recognize from Cage Warriors, though. Let me just quickly bring it up here, see if we can oh wait, never mind. This is a England card. I thought it was one of those ones where they're over in California. All right, let's get to my bets. So we already talked about my Bautista and Dawson parlay. That's 2 units at plus 102. I got 1 unit on Ramona Pascual at plus 135. I got 3 more bets, Clint. So let's talk about them.
Let's
Main
talk about it.
event. I went 2.5 units here on Marina Rodriguez at minus 210. I think that she is just a better fighter overall here. I believe her durability is good enough to kind of withstand that early onslaught from Amanda Lemos. And then as Lemos starts to slow down, I think we'll see Marina, maybe pick it up a little bit, but at least she should be able to win those, third, fourth, and fifth rounds should we need it. Can she get a late finish? I think it's absolutely possible. Fully depends on if she, is willing to go out there and actually put it on the line. But I think she's the more disciplined striker. She doesn't blow her wad early going. She throws in combinations. She stays busy. She's nasty in the clinch. Amanda Lemos, a lot of her win condition comes in that early going, that round and a half. This is her first 5-round fight as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if she has the gas to go the full 25 minutes here. Add into, I think both of them actually got stranded in Brazil, but we know that usually Amanda Lemos has a very tough cut down to 115 pounds. So I don't know how this travel detour is going to affect her in that aspect. But if anything, I think I would like it for Marina Rodriguez just a tad bit more. So yeah, just hoping for not an early finish. I know a lot of people are saying that you can just jump in on Marina live going into round 2, but there's a possibility that she could win round 1 as well. And then you're stuck with the minus 300, minus 400 line going into round 2. So I just, I didn't parlay her. I just went straight up 2.5 units minus 210. Quick thoughts on the main event. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it would be Marina or pass for me. The
Yeah.
problem is, I again kind of feel like maybe this line is a little too wide. Like, even if she does get the win, it's probably not going to be as easy as we would expect it to be. The big question marks with Marina for me, and I'm a Marina truther. Like, she's my dark horse of the division. Like, I think she's going to challenge for a title sooner than later. She has no urgency off her back, Luck. If she gets taken down and her takedown defense is not stellar or anything to write home about, she just doesn't get up. Like, she is more than content to like neutralize her opponent and lay there on her back and let an entire round slip away. That's concerning to me. Even in a 5-round fight, going up against a Brazilian and Lemos, we know she doesn't go to her grappling chops all that often, but they're there. We
Yeah.
saw in her last
Yeah.
fight, she won by submission. So she may bring some of that back here in this spot. And she's such a physical, explosive, beastly type of woman that she can power double leg Marina all day. And then if she gets to sit on top of her for 2-3 minutes and reload that gas tank, I don't see why she can't make it 5 rounds. Because she won't be. It's not like Marina Rodriguez is the type of fighter to make you work when you're on top of her. She'll be able to rest and get that gas tank back, going the way she needs it to. Now, I can absolutely see Hafrican talking in the chat about the later round props for Marina Rodriguez. She cranks it up. She gets better the longer the fight goes. So I like that. I don't mind those late finish props whatsoever. But at the same time, we've seen nothing but Marina Rodriguez being tough and being durable. And I'm not questioning her at this point, man. I know she's a little bit older, but she's by far the more physical of the two fighters. And she's only 35. So, like, she's older, but not like ancient. So I'm not ready to write her off or anything like that yet. I just think this is a tough stylistic matchup for Marina, because if she gets clocked once or twice with those big power shots and suddenly is not like opening up with her volume like she usually does, all of a sudden we got a really close technical striking matchup and then a girl with a pretty clear grappling edge. So it's a dog or pass spot for me. I haven't bet it, but so I'm kind of waiting to look and see what happens with this line. I would be kind of tempted to, I'll be honest, man, like, I hate going against you. I would be tempted to tail some like reverse line movement. Like, if we see everyone piling in on the favorite side and this line starts ticking down, like, I'll be like, ooh, like, maybe we get in on that.
You pulled a old switcheroo on me there, Clint. You started off by saying I thought this was a Marina or pass fight, and now you're ending the breakdown by saying, I think it's a dog or pass situation. Did you just talk yourself into Amanda Lemos bet?
I kind of did. Like, that's what I'm not, and that's why I haven't bet it, Locke. That's why I haven't bet it, because I'm like, I think the line is too wide. At the end of the day, my brain tells me that Marina Rodriguez is going to win this fight, but fuck, it might be close. I don't want to be minus 200 deep on her. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel about this fight. I feel like your butt might be puckered when the judges read their decisions at the end of this one. So I'm just going to let it fly at this point. We'll see if my opinion changes after, weigh-ins. I want to see how she looks with that tough cut. I want to see how they size up with each other. But at this point, I'm just going to leave it alone, and I'll wish you luck.
This kind of reminds me of like the Dustin Jacoby and Khalil Roundtree fight the last week, in the fact that we know that there's that knockout threat from the one side and that finishing threat from the one side. But should the fighter that you're betting on, in my case, Jacoby, in this weekend's case, Marina, if they can survive that early onslaught, I feel like they can really start to pull away with it down the stretch. Now, you can't really account for bullshit judging and, fight.
Should have got your hand raised, man.
Fights go the other way, but hopefully judges won't be required here, and Marina can possibly get this done in the late rounds as well and cash those late round tickets. Other spots here that I got 2 more money line spots I'd love to get your thoughts on. I'm going in on Neil Magny here, 1.5 units, minus 109. I know a lot of people are thinking that he's fallen off the horse. He's on the back end of his career. People want to go on the hot hand on Daniel Rodriguez. But I think stylistically speaking, Neil Magny is one of the best guys to rely on when he has that perfect stylistic matchup. And what I mean by that is guys that are likely not going to grapple him, right? He always falters against guys that are going to grapple him. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Rafael Dos Anjos, Michael Chiesa, the list goes on. Guys that are significantly better technical strikers than him. Santiago Ponzinibbio is the only one recently that was able to defeat him, right? Way back when they fought in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Santiago Ponzinibbio chipped away at his legs for 4.5 rounds until he eventually landed a big punch to finally knock him out. And then Lorenz Larkin back at UFC 202 was able to finish him in the clinch with some nasty elbows. Daniel Rodriguez's striking is not that bad. Don't get me wrong. He throws in combinations. He moves well. That's it. But I think that tempo and that style and that pace that Neil Magny brings is going to be tough for Daniel Rodriguez to keep up with. When it gets into the clinch, the dirty boxing, the dirty clinch work that Neil Magny does, very good. His movement, his cardio, his ability to just keep moving forward and put you in uncomfortable positions. I think he's usually reliable to go out and beat a guy like Daniel Rodriguez. Now, am I concerned that Max Griffin was able to drop Neil Magny? Because that seems to be the big narrative going into this week. Everybody's scared that Daniel Rodriguez knocked down Neil Magny. Now that means Neil Magny is shit. No, he got clipped one time. Give the guy a break. Not to mention, did he get clipped? But he still came back and won the rest of that fight. That is an ultra veteran. That guy still went out there and did his job, stuck to the game plan, and got his hand raised. I fully expect him to do the same thing here. Daniel Rodriguez, not a big finisher, You know what I mean? Not, he's not finishing guys left and right. He's not a big puncher that we need to worry about, nor is he as fast as Max Griffin, which is what I believe the reason was as to why Griffin was able to drop Neil Magny in their fight. He has none of those concerns. Just put out the output, put on a Neil Magny type fight, go out there and get the dub. I went 1.5 units at minus 109. I believe the line is still around that. Pick him minus 115 ish. I really like him in this spot. What are you thinking?
This is one that I may join you on, Lock. Neil
Let's
Magny's my guy.
go.
Neil
Let's
Magny's
go.
my guy. Like he is he's a good soldier, man. Like you always know exactly what you're getting from Neil Magny. Same fight game plan every single time. And you touched on a big point that he does well when they don't flip the script grappling on him. Daniel Rodriguez has got a decent little submission game on him, but he doesn't wrestle. This guy never looks to take anybody down. He's basically a Diaz bro. What's up, Dream? Skull is right. Let's go. Hey, got TJ Hawkinson, baby. Like, we're looking good now. So I think this is a spot where a lot of people are looking back and being like, man, he just got blown through. Like, yeah, he got ran over by Shavkat, man. A lot of people are going to get run over by Shavkat. That's not what this man does. That's not how D-Rod fights. So I think Neil Magny can find a way to slow the pace. I think he can drag this fight to the deep waters where he likes it. And it wasn't too long ago that we saw D-Rod get absolutely shut down by freaking Dalby, man. Like, if Nicholas Dalby can slow this man down, why can't Neil Magny do the same thing to him? So I think Neil Magny's the side here on this one. I know this one is kind of the Twitter civil war of the week. I know a lot of hard opinions. Wow. I'm seeing a lot of people with strong stances on both sides. I would definitely be leaning towards the Neil Magny side, minus 120. I don't mind that price tag either. So that's the way I'd look. I'm tempted to jump in on the favorite side. It's favorite or pass for me. It's Magny or nothing.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought up the Nicholas Dalby fight, man. Like that's a perfect example of like what movement, kicks from the outside, and as close to a comparison to Neil Magny that we'll get from a past Daniel Rodriguez guy, right? Like you're not getting Mike Perry exchanging with you in the pocket. You're not getting fucking Li Jingliang exchanging with you in the pocket, even though you probably likely deserve to lose that fight. So I'm always happy to go out there and put my balls on the line for Neil Magny because I think that he's one of those more reliable guys. He's the male Kaplan Chukagian. We know what we're going to get every time those two go out there and fight. And in most spots, if they match up perfectly with their opponent, they come out with their hand raised. And I think that's what we're getting here with Neil Magny. All right, last one here, Clint, that I got. This one might be a little bit of you smoking some crack, Manpreet? You might be asking me that, but I'm going 1 unit plus 194 on Ludovic Sholinian. Now, Johnny Munoz Jr., I'm a fan of the guy, right? Big BJJ experience. He's a BJJ ace, if we want to say that. He needs to get fights to the ground to really have success. But if he can't, Ludovic Sholinian will likely be the more aggressive striker, will be the one pushing the pace, staying in his face, throwing punches, landing punches, and be more comfortable in the boxing range, right? I think that he can march him down and really get to him. Compared to Johnny Munoz Jr., his striking is mainly like just kicks from the outside. You saw him throwing 1-2s against Jamie Simmons, but that's because he has a sizable height and reach advantage in that matchup. Ludovic is actually a inch taller than Johnny Munoz Jr. He's actually going to be able to control this fight from that range, in my opinion. And I think that his grappling is good enough that he can kind of fend off most of the takedowns and grappling approaches here from Munoz and probably just march him down and touch him up on the feet. Talk about a guy that's also coming off from defending his fucking country, Clint. He gave up a matchup against Nathaniel Wood back in March because of the whole Ukraine-Russia war. He left or he pulled out of that fight so that he can go to Ukraine and help out his fellow countrymen. Now he is back. I'm assuming he's back with a vengeance. And this is a great spot for him at plus 194, in my opinion. Big plus money number on him in a matchup where I think it should fare well for him. What are your thoughts?
Frankly, I don't hate it. I like the other side here in general. I had a tough loss on Johnny Munoz when I tried to fade my guy Gravely. I'm another Tony Gravely hater, and I thought that this man had the exact tools that you would need to beat Tony Gravely, except he left his chin out, going for a takedown and died with a single punch. So that wasn't fun. But I do expect that he's going to pose a lot of people problems with that style. He's got slick BJJ, and that's really kind of the big thing that I think I would lean on here is the Shaolinian. Lock, the only thing with Shaolinian is I'm not sure he's not a fraud. Like, I can see him. I know he's got a strong wrestling background. I could see him getting on top of Johnny Munoz Jr. and just like sitting on his chest for 15 minutes and just being the better wrestler here and staying safe. But damn, man, you look at his record, and I know he went 1-1 on The Ultimate Fighter. He's got 5 debuting fighters on his record, Lock. 5 of his 9 wins are 0-0 guys. I'm like, shit, are we sure this guy's UFC caliber? That's my only thing. Now, Jack Shore, he was injured in that fight, so it looked a lot closer than it probably should have. If we were getting a 100% healthy Jack Shore, I think that fight plays out differently. But at the same time, I am done with Johnny Munoz until I see some improvement from him. I think he's almost a Derek Minner type for me at this point. He's got wicked jiu-jitsu. I think he can choke out pretty much anybody. And if you're giving me a guy that's going to grapple with him, I might look to play a sub prop, getting a -200 favorite at like a +350, +400 sub price. That'd be more the way that I'm looking. I think I'm picking the favorite to win, but it's not with any confidence. And whenever a situation rises up like that, for me, it's dog or pass, right? Like if I feel like I can't confidently lay a price with a favorite, then that means the underdog is live. And I think Ludwig Shaolinian is probably live, especially by decision. If you want to take him grappling, I don't think he's got the striking chops to really hurt Johnny Munoz unless his chin is just completely demolished. I think it's going to be a ground-based fight. So either sub for Munoz, decision for Shaolinian. I respect and don't mind the shot.
Yeah, just touching on those debuting fighters that he fought, like he's over there in Ukraine at that point of his career, right? Just fighting the guys that they're giving to him. He finally moves over to the States, and you see him finally take on his first fight. Fucking Vince Cashero. Actually, he did have a Bellator fight as well, but when he fought in LFA, Vince Cashero beats him. Split decision, but he went out there and he grinded him out in those second and third rounds after having a tough first round. The guy's tough. The guy's a gamer. The guy's going to push it. That's all I want. This guy will fight for my money. I know he's going to pressure him the majority of this matchup, and will hopefully give me good enough value on this +194 underdog. I have one spot that I haven't bet yet that I'm looking to bet still. I will likely end up pulling the trigger now that it's widely available and still likely around the number that I like. I like the Jinyu Fry Poliana Vienna under 2.5 at +200. Just the way Vienna fights, she's just very chaotic. She's very reckless. Like she got kind of muzzled against Tabitha Ricci, who's just as good of a BJJ practitioner, was able to get her to the ground and grind her out. Jinyu Fry, yes, she could stay safe at times from on top, but like given how active Poliana can be, I think she could catch her, right? Kay Hansen was able to catch Jinyu Fry late in that fight. Poliana Vienna is always going to be going for it. Whether if it's an armbar off her back, whether it's her throwing crazy strikes on the feet, she's going to bring the fight. And +200, I think that's a steal of a line considering what she brings to the table here. And considering that Fry, like she likes clean fights. She's not getting a clean fight here. This one's going to get chaotic. This one's going to get dirty. And I think that Vienna likely pulls off either a submission here or she ends up getting finished herself from being a little bit too reckless. So, what do you think? Under 2.5, +200.
I'm not so sure. I might go anti-violence on this one, Locke. I might lean the other way on this one. I can see it. I know exactly what you're saying, but at the same time, Jinyu Fray is so tough. Like I know she got tapped in the third round, but at the same time, we don't see her get finished all that often. And frankly, I don't know how much finishing offense she has to bring to the table. I know she's got that like big left hand on her, but she's only got 2 TKO wins in her whole career, and now she's 37 years old. Like I just don't know that she's gonna be. I don't know that she's gonna be able to actually KO someone like Poliana Viana. She's pretty tough, and especially if you get her on her back and she's like working from bottom. How many times have we seen her give away a decision? Tabitha Ricci, Hannah Cyphers, JJ Aldrich, like she'll just coast. Like, I don't know that, and even back on the regional scene, this Eileen person that she lost to back in 2014, like, she'll take that bottom position, stay safe, try to look for subs, but if she can't get them, she'll just stay there. So I can almost see this fight being a classic grindy Jinyu Fray spot, but I think with, like, the improving of a young fighter in Poliana, I could see her having some improved striking chops. Lock, I'm looking at the split decision for this one. Plus 400 for this bad boy to be a split decision. Low-level women's MMA, one walking forward, throwing a hammer repeatedly, the other one backing up and kicking the calf and doing nothing of, importance or damage. Like, give me a split, man. I think this one's going all 15. And I was this close to like hammering Polyana Viana. I was like, this is the one. Wow. This is the one, man. And then I did the tape and I was like, oh shit. Like, so I don't hate it. I'm just going to pass on this one. If anything, it's a degenerate split decision sprinkle, but I could see this one being very competitive, very close. You always have the sub of Polyana Viana. That armbar triangle that she works from is wicked. So you're not dead. I'm not saying you got no chance.
Oh, I'm not letting this derail me at all. I don't see how I would likely go with it. I don't know. I like it here. Looking forward to also seeing what the striking exchanges look like, because Vienna gets a little bit way too reckless in there, and that might be where Frey might be able to take advantage. Brandon Olivas in the chat.
Guy Brandon, shout out to
my guy Brandon.
That's right. Got to support the Yotes, baby. Big win last night. Plus 425 in regulation. Let's go.
Fellow Phoenix boys right there. Let's touch upon what Rips and Picks and African want to talk about. So my guy African here is saying, thoughts on Parisian versus Sherman. I have a sneaky submission. Fat man Parisian might end up on top, and Sherman gets flashbacks of when Collier sat on him like a sumo guy. Rips and Picks also saying any place with the people's main event. And yes, him and African passing the same joint right now. That seems to be the narrative here. I was close to making a bet on Chase Sherman, who seems to be taking the action right now. He was closer to a pick 'em earlier this week, and now we're talking about minus 130 on Sherman. So my concern here is just Josh Parisian's grappling. Does he look to get him to the ground? And how active is Sherman in terms of getting back to his feet? Like, can we trust it? I don't know. And I'm not all that sold on Parisian, right? Like, on the feet, I think Chase Sherman will likely control the majority of the striking exchanges. I think he'll be able to hit him a lot. He might even be able to knock him out, but it's just the grappling exchange in this matchup that have me all twisted up. Like, Parisian's top game is not the greatest, but also Chase Sherman's get up game not the greatest either. But it's like pick your poison. Everybody always wants to talk about the lowest level fight every fucking week and try to make a bet on it. I was close to making the bet on Chase Sherman. I just can't do it, man. I really can't. Well, what are you thinking here?
See, it's funny because I was on the flip side. I was close to betting Josh Parisian. Like, I'm looking the other way with old fatty over there. Like I said on my show, man, I think Josh Parisian is what you get if Jared Vandera actually grappled. Like, if Jared Vandera would use the grappling that he's got, you would get Josh Parisian. I think Josh Parisian can hang like volume for volume here. And I know everyone's like piling in on Chase Sherman because he finally got a fucking win and he finally got a TKO. Man, he almost quit on himself like 4 times in the fight with Jared Vandera. Like, you could see the moment where I had a bet on Jared. It's like, step on the fucking gas, Jared. Like, he's about to go
down. Those are the worst. Those are the worst.
He just refuses to do anything beyond his measured approach. Now, if you give Chase a chance to quit, he will. That's the end of the story for me, man. Like, if you give this man an opportunity, he will. If you let him work his way back into the fight, he will do that too. Like, he's a tough dude. I'm not doubting the fact that he's tough, but as soon as he realizes that it's piling up against him, he'll live to fight another day. So if Jared comes down, if Josh comes out here and takes him down, I think it's going to look a whole lot like the Romanov fight. Now, obviously dealing with massively different calibers of fighters here, but Jared, I keep see that they're so similar in my head. Josh,
that sect of heavyweights are all the fucking same, right?
Oh, I know, right? They look the same. They fight the same. They're all terrible. Like, so Josh has nasty ground and pound. That's his thing. He's got filthy ground and pound. But the thing with Chase is he's a one-hitter quitter, knockout loss type of guy. He's got 4 KO losses. But you know what he doesn't do a lot, Locke? Is he doesn't shell up and get TKO'd a lot. He doesn't get saved by the ref a lot. He's actually tough enough to continue trying to fight and survive in a fight. But he gives up that neck. I actually do like the sub for Josh Parisian. If you're looking for like a juicy prop bet, it's like 10-1 or something this week. Dude's a black belt. He might not be a black belt when he's on his back, but he's a black belt when he's on top of you. And if he gets on top of Chase Sherman, that's a whole lot of man that's going to be looking for a neck, and the way he punches and elbows, I can absolutely see Chase Sherman reverting back to what we've seen before and having him turn his back and give up his neck. I don't mind an underlook in this fight. I mean, it's classic sloppy heavyweights. You might be able to squeeze over that 1.5 like we see a lot, but I also wouldn't be shocked if Chase Sherman comes out a lot harder. He's got confidence now, finally got back on the winning streak and another low-level opponent. So we know Chase is dangerous in round one. He could come out and leg kick and, leg kick, head bomb Josh here and get him out of there early. So I don't mind violence in this fight. I would lean to Josh Parisian. I really want to hear the fighter interviews for this one. I want to hear where Josh's head is at, because if he's got the right path to victory here, if he knows how to win this fight, I think he taps him.
Man, it's again low-level heavyweights. Why do we always suck ourselves into these fucking situations to go out there and try to be right about low-level heavyweights?
Because there's a clear path. I think that's what it is. For me at least, I think that's what it is, because I think you find a fight and you're like, you know what? If you zoom back and you look at the whole thing, it's a pick 'em. Because this guy's better here, this guy's better here, this could happen, this could happen. But when you find that one little angle, and that's where I like the sub prop, that's what I'm talking about, that it's such a clear advantage. It's such a clear and easy path for one guy that you're like, he's got a much higher chance of winning if he does that. But then when the fight starts, it's low-level shit and he doesn't do it. So like that's I think that it's a mental thing where like we're thinking we're finding an edge, but the edge isn't factored in with the rest of the fight. So it, I think that's kind of how I get sucked into dumpster diving for these types of fights. But that's why I haven't bet this one. I recognize that this is a low-level heavyweight fight, and I recognize that Chase Sherman could come out and be the better striker because he is, and either win by knockout or decision over Josh Parisian, who's just not very good on the feet. This could be a split decision. This could be a round one finish. Like this fight really could go either way, any way you want to write it. Absolutely.
I've pretty much run away from the low-level heavyweight fat white guy thing. That was my moniker after I was able to pick fucking Jake Collier over Gian Villante. Everybody was like, oh my God, how did you know Jake was going to win that fight? I'm like, we can't take so much away from him getting starched by Tom Aspinall. Now he's going up against Gian Villante. Sorry?
Have you seen Gian fight? Like, what was the last Villante fight you watched? Because
exactly. But the wide narrative that weekend was Gian Villante was going to knock out Jake Collier. So, like you said, pull the scope out a little bit and look at the big picture, and you might be able to find yourself on one side or the other. Clint, I can't believe this flew by. This was so much easier and way better, in my opinion, than what we've been trying to do with the Deadlock podcast in prior weeks. We're about to hit a clean 60 minutes right here, just talking about our bets. That's just awesome.
Shooting the shit. No, I like it, and I think it gives the people an idea of where our heads are at. Like the people that do follow us individually, and we get to kind of talk through spots that we're uncomfortable with at the moment, halfway through the week and stuff. I like it. I think that I think it works. And you guys in the chat, if you think it works, if you like this, let us know. Once the show's over, jump in the chat, or not the chat. Sorry, because the chat is the thing. We missed the chat. When the show is over, jump in the comments. Let us know if you like us talking more about bets and less about current events and stuff like that, and we'll keep it rolling. I think this is good. I like it.
I like it a lot too, Clint. We might as well bring this bad boy home.
Yeah, everybody, this is the Deadlock podcast. Make sure you subscribe here on the DLP YouTube channel. Hit the like button for us. We appreciate you guys. And if you like what we're doing, show us some love. We'll keep doing it. That's about all it comes down to. Manpreet, I know you've got some stuff coming up later in the week. Everybody knows. I've got some stuff coming up later in the week. Everybody already knows. The people that follow us, they already follow us. So everybody get out there, kick some ass. Hope you make some money. Hope stay safe this week, folks. UFC Vegas 64, low-level bullshit. Like, don't unload this week and lose your rolls for UFC 281 because it's right around the corner and there's some really sexy spots on 281 lock. Let me tell you, I'm going to piss some people off next week. Good luck with all your bets, and Deadlock Army dismissed. I almost saluted with the wrong hand. That'd be bad.